SMT Mainline 44, 49, 4014 Productions, and today we're doing some rail fanning on the mid-range subdivision. It appears we've got a mixed freight with a DPU and stuff from Germany. Yeah, welcome everybody. I figured it was time to do another Running Trains live stream. It's been a while, so hopefully some people will join in soon enough. I'm just going to quickly adjust some settings in the background here. And yeah, I already got a few people in. Welcome everybody. Hello from Wisconsin, welcome. When are you gonna run Doom? I don't know, I'm gonna have to modify the layout so I can run the Sega 32X version of Doom on the layout. Aussie Rail fan, welcome. Dodger Bend, there's a channel that's been around here for a while. Looks like we're ready to roll here. Where's Nerf Cat? He's upstairs. Hopefully he'll come down here later on. Ed Bately Jr., good evening SMT. I hope Nerf Cat got some treats. Yes, he did. Hello from California. Good to see you live again. I had a question. If somebody wanted to send you pics of their train, where could they send that? You can either send me a message on Instagram, or you can send an email to scrumptiousmodeltrains@gmail.com. Not sure if you saw my comment on your video. Yeah, I don't know which one that would be, so I might not have. Oops. Looks like we got a bit of a derailment with the mid-train DPU. How are you doing, Harrison? How's the layout? It's been a bit since I've seen your channel. I've been busy. Oh, things are going fine. Some of you might have seen I did a post replacing some switches. Basically, about a week ago, my grandmother had asked to run trains for 3 hours straight, so we did that, and by the end of that 3-hour running, all 4 of these switches failed. I don't know why. I don't know what happened with the electrics, but all 4 of them went bad. So I was like, okay, enough's enough. So other than that, the layout's doing well. I think these Pico ones are going to work a little bit better than the originals, though. You're one of the reasons I'm into model trains. Well, that's great to hear. It means a lot. Do you have any suggestions for switches that trains keep derailing on? Yeah, first of all, make sure that the switch is shutting all the way. So make sure that this is flush no matter what direction it's going. You don't want it to pick the point. Check the frog and the little gaps, because if ballast or anything gets caught in there, that can cause derailments, so clear that. And check your locomotive's wheels to make sure they're engaged, because if they're not, they might catch on different parts of the switch. So that's where I would start. Sometimes you just have a bad switch. I've had a few switches that are just bad from the factory, and you need to modify them with heat or just by bending stuff a little bit. If it's a really bad switch, though, if you have one switch that everything derails on, just replace it. You know, sometimes it saves you the headache just to put a new part in. I actually have family from England who grew up during the twilight years of the steam era in Britain. He regularly train spotted during his childhood. How big is the layout? It's about 16 feet long by 4 feet wide for this section. I forget the dimensions for that part. Any unboxing videos soon? There'll probably be another one within the next couple weeks. I've got quite a few parcels from people which I want to open up, and there's about 1 million things from eBay which are also ready to go. Some of them are projects, and other ones are, you know, junk lots and things like that. So it's there's going to be something. Still waiting on a video for the classic Oldsmobile. Well, I've been doing work on it. I dug down to the timing bracket that was all loose, so I got that back on there. But yeah, I actually just bought a new quadrajet to throw on that thing, so we'll see if that gets it running a little bit better. And I'm also going to try to retime it now that I actually have timing marks, so might be some Oldsmobile content once I get that done. Which do you find more reliable, flex track or snap track? I use both. For the straight sections, I use flex track just because there's less joiners. But for the curves, I like to use snap track. And the reason for that is if you're working with the layout, which is only 4 feet wide, trying to get perfect curves with flex track is tricky. If you have a larger layout where things are more roaming, you can use flex track. But personally, for smaller layouts, I go with snap track just because, you know, it's going to make a perfect curve. Do you still have the GS4 sound value that you fixed with the wires? That wasn't my Locomotive. That belonged to a buddy of mine. Is that a California Northern diesel or a standard Genesee in Wyoming? It's a Quebec and Gatineau, so it's actually a local railroad for me, which is a division of Genesee in Wyoming. Can you run your Flying Scotsman? I don't think I have a working Flying Scotsman at the moment. Love seeing the rail bus running. It's a nice little unit. It was made in Germany. I don't know too much about this specific model's history because it was my friend Liam. He was at the train club one day and there were guys getting rid of stuff and he saw a bunch of old engines and he picked them up for me. I ironically ended up bringing them to a train show where I gave most of those away. Didn't really have use for them because they were duplicates, but this one kind of stood out. I thought it was kind of cool, so I kept it around, and seems to work pretty well on the streetcar section, so I figured why not. Do you have a Union Pacific big boy? I have one. I don't know if I have any in working order right now. How old is Nerf Cat? I think he's about 17 years old. We're not entirely sure. We didn't have him since he was a kitten. Is there an engine you've been wanting? I've been on the hunt for Polar Express for a while. I bought one of those. It's in storage right now for an unboxing video, and I also am still on the hunt for a green Rivarossi Hiawatha. I don't know if I'll ever find one, but I'm always looking for one of those. Can you run an Australian engine? Yeah, sure. I have one that I think will match really nice with these cars, at least in terms of like a paint scheme. This one. It's not exactly the right orange, but there's some gray on there too. I think it will look good. Genesee and Wyoming trying not to have their paint scheme on various rail lines impossible. Yeah, well, it's funny seeing locomotives from even other countries like Australia that have this same paint scheme. I like it, actually. I think it's kind of a cool scheme, but it's funny that so many of them have it. I know that you make custom layouts and videos. Do you accept offers to make layouts for anyone or just family and friends? I haven't built a layout for anybody outside of YouTube. I mean, you know, some of my friends I've built layouts for have channels, so kind of, but I don't know. I guess it would depend. The thing I would really wonder is how I would actually transport it, because there were a lot of people who were, you know, that have like sent me emails saying, hey, can you build me a layout? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe where do you live? And they're like, California. And it's like, it's about what, 5-day drive from where I'm at. So you can't exactly just pop a 4x8 in the mail. So I'm not sure how that would work, but yeah, I'm planning on building another layout soon. It's going to be the budget layout, and I don't have a plan for what I'm going to do with that layout once it's done. So we'll have to see. You should run the real-life Milwaukee. There's a real Milwaukee Road Hiawatha shell rotting away in a field in Brazil. And the Lake Superior Railroad Museum is trying to find it. If that's true, that would be insane. I was under the impression they were for sure all gone. Can you run the Aussie Express through the mountain area? I don't know if it would go through the sharp curves. Can you run the Canadiana Centennial? Yeah, I can go get that. What's your favorite steam engine in your collection, and does it run? My favorite steam engine is the Hiawatha, and yes, it is in working order. It's a little bit noisy, but runs like a champ. It's funny because the other day, you know, I was talking about how my grandmother was like running the train, so I had that one running, and it was giving me trouble, or so I thought, in that one corner over there. So I kept messing with the engine, trying to rewire stuff. Turned out the electrical was solid on that engine, and it was those switches that were messing with things, but I didn't know that yet. So it's funny, I you know, blame the older piece of equipment when in reality it was just gnarly old switches. Do you listen to Ozzy Going Off the Rails on a Crazy Train? Yeah, I featured that song in a YouTube short where I was running a River Aussie Big Boy on 15 radius curves on a mountain layout. The last video was excellent. You made her very proud. Yeah, I'm really happy with how that all went. I just bought a Proto 2000 Atlantic Coastline E8 and went to convert it to DCC. Do you recommend getting a decoder buddy or just wiring the engine directly to the decoder? I'll be honest with you, I've never worked with a decoder buddy, so I can't really say if they're actually beneficial or not, but the only thing I could see being advantageous of having a decoder buddy is that if your decoder goes bad, you could swap it out easier, because I think what a decoder buddy does is it basically just adds an 8-pin socket. But the thing is, adding an 8-pin socket, I just don't see how that's easier than just wiring the decoder directly to the locomotive, so... correct me if I'm wrong, but I think just wiring the decoder directly to the motor would probably be a better idea. Do you prefer Atlas track or Bachmann track? I'm gonna have to go with Atlas track. I know Bachmann Easy Track is kind of nice since the roadbed just comes with it, but the only thing I really like about Easy Track is that it's simple. That's one strength that it has. Other than that, it's not my favorite stuff. Have you ever heard of the AMC Bricklin? They were made in Canada. I can't say I have. I've heard of AMC, but I don't know anything about that specific vehicle. The Hiawatha is a true champ for that. My favorite engine I own is an AHM Berkshire I got for $100 off eBay. It goes really well with my Athearn Blue Box coaches. I bought a Bachmann SD 40-2 and a caboose with DCC for $90. Did I make a good purchase? I would say for an engine that runs and is equipped for DCC, yeah, that seems like a decent deal, especially with a caboose. You know, it's another $10 to $15 right there. I wonder how well this old bus will party with this. What brand is the rail bus? I think it's Fleshman. The Canadian, yeah, exactly. It's possible I wired this backwards, so I might give it power and it might just start doing something different from what it's supposed to, but I'm gonna try it anyhow. Yeah, I can't tell if it's working or if it's just being pushed by the two dash 9s. And you run some New Haven. I'm sure we could find a New Haven engine to throw on the layout. Do you think I got lucky to get a DCC controller for $50? I would say so. I think that's a pretty good deal right there. I feel like if you can buy a DCC controller really for anything under $100, it's not a bad deal. Even an old Easy controller, I feel like, you know, not bad. Let me see if I can go find a New Haven of some sort. Trying to think if I have anything nicer than the old Tyco New Haven units. I'll have a look over here. We got a New Haven unit right there, but I thought I had an Athearn one as well. Yeah, I'm just gonna... yeah, maybe not. I don't know. I just don't know if that's gonna work well with the Athearns. Because if I find another blue box engine, it's probably geared similarly. I just don't know where the darn thing is. Oh, here it is. Can you run the Sioux A and B unit? I think it looks sick. I can definitely run the Sioux A unit. I still haven't found the coupler pockets for the B unit. Let's see if those work together. Yeah, maybe. This one had electrical issues. I can't remember if I got to the bottom of that or not. I'm like the blue box whisperer. I can rebuild those things in my sleep. They are really nice locomotives in terms of serviceability. In the case of this one, however, it's definitely running. That's good. I don't know if David Zeta G-Scale's in here, but I'm pretty sure he's the one who actually sent me this engine in like 2020 or something. There is a store in Smith Falls called New Old Town, and they have an HO scale room at very fair prices. I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but no, actually it was another person earlier today was just talking about that. This user called the Renfrew guy. So I'm going to have to go check that out. I mean, obviously I'm a pretty big fan of Smith Falls, so yeah, if they've got a little train shop going there, I'd love to go visit it. With steam and diesel locomotives, what models would you say are Cadillacs in terms of performance? For steam locomotives, I'm a big fan of the old Mahano ones. I find those run pretty well. They're also quite affordable for what they are, so that's probably my favorite brand of steam locomotive. For diesels, I don't know if I'd call blue box engines Cadillacs, but they are very reliable. Probably more comparable to like a Corolla or a 7.3 IDI. But in terms of like top of the end running, I'd probably say Kato, Atlas. Modern Atherns are pretty good. Rapidos run pretty well. Trying to think if there's any other good brands of steam locomotives. Some of the old River Aussies can run well. The only problem I have with River Aussies is I find the bolts that hold the drivers in, you have to go through and put thread locker on every one of them, otherwise they drop a bolt and then the wheels become unquartered. That can be a bit of a pain, but other than that, not bad. Any brands that are both cheap and reliable. I think that Athearn blue box engines are kind of like the best blend of being cheap and reliable. Like you can find an old blue box at a train show for like $15. And if it doesn't run well, usually a bit of servicing will get it running well. But I find 9 times out of 10, you throw those things on the track and they just go, even if they're in really bad condition. The old Atlas engines are a little less common to find at a good price, but sometimes you find them for under $20. So those are very good. If you can find an old Kato like from the 90s, you can sometimes get those for about $30, and those are quite reliable. I think the only brands I would really try to avoid in terms of reliability on a budget would be Tyco and Bachmann. I don't hate either brand. Like I love working on the older locomotives, but if you want some stuff which is just going to start, a Tyco I find can be a bit of a mixed bag. What model train company do you think is not very good? I would probably say Bachmann. I'm not a Bachmann hater, as some people think. My only issue with them is I feel like they overcharge for what they're selling. Like I don't find their stuff is the highest quality, and I find that they charge too much for it. If their stuff was cheaper, I would, forgive some of the quality issues, but I'd rather spend another $40 and buy a engine from a different brand than buy a Bachmann one. Chris Danielle, you buy Tyco for the nostalgia. No one should buy Bachmann. I do think Tyco probably does win the award in terms of being a nostalgic brand. Like, there are so many people. It's either, whenever I meet somebody who's not really into model trains, but they had one train set when they were a kid, 9 times out of 10, it's either, oh, I had O scale and I had Lionel, or I had HO scale and it was Tyco. Hi from Germany. Funny to see a rail bus running on your layout. Well, I was gonna throw this on. I'll get it running again just for a moment here. But yeah, I got this thing for free about a year ago, and it's pretty good. Tyco were lifelike. They ruled the 70s and 80s. It's funny you say that because a family friend, their daughter was coming to stay with us for a few days, and or his daughter was coming to stay with us, and he had a train set, and so he sent it up from Nova Scotia so I could have it, and it was made up entirely of old Tyco and lifelike stuff. I think that was literally the only 2 brands in the entire collection, and I plan on actually featuring that in a video where I show how to resurrect an old train set, because it's been sitting since the 80s or something. Walthers is pretty good. Yeah, I would say Walthers is a pretty good brand in terms of affordability and reliability. Like, I really like those GP15s. Every time I've built a layout for a family friend, I've thrown a couple of those in there just because I know that, you know, they're probably going to last a long time. So far, they have survived too, so that's good to see. Looks like we got a super chat from the Old Bay Rail fan. SMT, you should look into getting one of the new Kato high D51s. I just got one today, and it's the most detailed locomotive in my collection. I'll have to look into that, but thank you so much for the super chat. I actually haven't heard of that kind of engine before, but I'm curious to see what it is. What's the best German brand? I'm not as much of a knowledgeable person when it comes to German stuff, but I would assume it's Marklin. Almost all the channels I follow that model in Germany seem to use Marklin stuff. I don't know if there's anybody from Germany who has some opinions on that, but they seem to be very popular. I have worked with some old Marklin engines as well, and they're very well made. Even the cheaper ones seem to last forever. Some of them are not very detailed, but in terms of like just good mechanics, like, they're solid. Proto 2000 is really good for starting out, cheap but reliable in my experience. From what I know, they make rolling stock. I would tend to agree. I mean, Proto 2000 is basically just a Walthers engine that's slightly higher end than like Trainline. I think it might even be higher end than Mainline. But the older Proto engines, I like them, but they're not as reliable as the Blue Box engines despite being clones, simply because the gears were not very well made. They're very easy to replace, so it's not a huge problem, but for a beginner, would I recommend to like buy one at a train show? I'm not so sure, just because I have seen quite a few of them that have the cracked gears and they won't run with them. So, you know, that might kind of suck if you're trying to get started and you buy an engine, you don't know how to do that. Got another super chat. Sorry about the misspelling of the super chat. Autocorrect is not working. I meant to say an HO scale D51. It's Japanese. Okay. That's probably why I haven't heard of it before, but I'll definitely have a look into that. Thank you for the second super chat. P2K is an undisputed king. They literally changed the model railroad industry in terms of detail. Huh. Do you like lifelike engines? I do like lifelike engines. They're not very high quality. I would say they're not too different really from an old Tyco or an old Bachmann, but if my life depended on picking one of the 3 to start, it would be the lifelike. The wheels oxidize, that's their main issue, but other than that, they have such simple drives. I find they can, you know, take quite a hit and just keep on going, whereas I find the Bachmanns from the same era tend to have split gears, which can sometimes jam the drive, and the old Tycos have a whole plethora of different problems. So, yeah, I do like the old lifelike engines. I'm not saying they're top of the line by any means, though. Canadian Behavior, how's it going? I was actually just talking about this engine that you found at the train club a while back. It's running pretty nice. I recently found my old Tyco Manua 040 is running slow, but when I tilt the tender it runs faster. How do I get that fixed? Basically, the motors on those things have a thrust washer on either side, and since the engine for most of its life is running in one direction, there's more pressure on one thrust washer over the other, so it shortens the lifespan of one of those washers. So long story short, there isn't really a solution, but sometimes if you switch the washers around and put the one that has less wear on the back in the front, you like flip them, sometimes that can fix it. But yeah, very common problem with old Mantua steam engines. Be interesting to see if there's a way to make a homebrew replacement, because a lot of people, if you have an old Mantua steam engine, you'll probably notice it will run really slow forwards, but then you throw it in reverse and it goes like 1,000,000 miles a minute, and that's why. You know a lot about fixing model trains. How did you learn to do that? Mostly trial and error. When I was really young, I would just try to take things apart and put them back together, and sometimes I'd be successful, other times not so much. And then when I started making videos on it, that helped a lot, just because there's a lot of people in the community who were giving me really good advice. So like if you watch my older videos, you know, like I use a metal pick to clean the commutator, and I later found out that's a huge no-no because you can scratch the commutator and wear it out really quick. Everyone was like, use plastic, use wood. And so I've learned a ton from the community, you know, just giving me constructive criticism. I don't know what to call the pinion gear, it wore out. Yeah, if you're talking about an old Tyco, that's a pretty common problem. How long before the merch store starts selling autographed fiberglass pencils? I don't know, that's a good idea. Yeah, the merch store I have to reinvent. Teespring has not been good to work with. Opinion on scale trains. I mean, they cost you an arm and a leg, but they're good products. The detail I find is good. They run very well. I don't really have anything negative to say about them other than the price. So far, the ones I've owned have been great. Trial and error is sometimes the best way to go fixing old locomotives. Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, the advice I've given to a lot of people who have said they've wanted to, like, start working on old model trains is to buy an engine you don't care about. Buy something that doesn't have any sentimental value or monetary value. Get something that's kind of worthless. Just try to fix it. And then that way, if it goes really wrong, you can just save it for parts and you don't have to worry about it. You know, because I've had some people be like, oh, I really want to fix up my dad's old locomotive. And it's like, don't start there. If you mess that up, you're going to feel bad. It's something sentimental. But if you have an old junker, you know, just go at it. And if it goes wrong, hey, it's $10. I've been watching your videos since 2017, and you've inspired me to join a model railroading club and become a model railroader. Thank you. I owe it all to you. Keep making the great videos. Well, thank you. That means a lot. Did you see my previous message? I think I might have missed it. Can you run the custom SMT mainline steam engine? Sure. I'll try to get it maybe pulling this. I don't know how well that will work, but we'll see what happens here. Will you get Thomas and Friends stuff and make videos on them? Probably not, to be honest. I have nothing against the show. I watched it and really loved it as a kid, but I just don't really feel the need to add trains with faces. What's your opinion on the live steam locomotives? I recently got my first one in the mail, and I've got to say it's probably the most fun I've had running trains. I've never worked with even a model of a live steam engine before, so I can't say. I'm kind of curious about it, but that's a whole other world. Curious to see how this old Rivarossi handles the curves. Just gotta let the old mid-train DPU go by. Question about Bachmann engines. Are the ones from Hong Kong worse than the ones from China? I recently got a Daylight for $25. It's missing the boiler and face trailing set, but it runs. I would say the ones from Hong Kong are worse than the ones from China. Like, well, okay, not all of them. The diesels from the 70s from Hong Kong are better, I would say, than the Chinese 80s and 90s Pancake drives. Those were all-wheel drive. They had 5-pole motors. They were okay. But they're steam engines from Hong Kong. Those things are garbage. You can fix them. I've done some videos. They're really complicated because of the gears, but unless you're really willing to sink a lot of time and effort, I wouldn't open it. Howdy, Harrison. I've successfully moved to a new house. Congratulations. Can't remember if this engine is actually wired to run on DC power, so I'm just going to have to run the whole layout off DCC. It's going to be a lot for the DCS51, but we're going to do that anyhow. So there we go, and then I can't remember if this is still wired to 3 or not. It is. Oh. I love how you tell people to clean the commutator on an engine. Well, when I was new to model railroading, I would take an engine apart, I would clean everything but the commutator, and the engine wouldn't run right. And it's such a critical part of the motor that if you service that really well, it will pay off. Time to see what did that. Do you have any Blue Box Norfolk Southern diesels? I do, as a matter of fact. It looks like Christine has caused a derailment. I'm upgrading my layout to double track, and I need to redo some turns. Any tips on how to desolder track? I usually just do it really slowly. I'll like put the soldering iron on one side, move the rail, then go on the other, solder it again. And usually after about 4 moves, you can get it to detach. Honestly, if the track is already in bad shape, sometimes what I do is I just cut the piece of solder out and just start fresh. And that's a good way to avoid issues, but it's a little bit more costly because, you know, you are sacrificing a little bit of rail every time you do that. Is that a, yeah, it's a Plymouth Fury. I hope you're having a good one. The videos have been extremely informative and inspiring. I recently pivoted from 3-rail AC O-scale to 2-rail overhead operated DC O-scale. Wow, that's Very unique part of the hobby to be in. I've never actually worked with the overhead wires before. I have seen it at some train shows, but I'd be curious to see what it's like to wire something like that. Have you ever heard of Tea and Moonshine? It's a model train comedy series. I can't say I have. Okay, just caused a derailment right there. What's your opinion on American Flyer? I don't own a crazy amount of stuff from American Flyer, but everything I've worked with in terms of their HO, S-scale, and a little bit of O-scale stuff has been solid. I think I might run something else because the coupler is a little bit higher than it is on the rest of these cars here, so. Have you ever been to the St. Thomas Train Museum? I can't say I have. Run trains in the same direction so that they can race. All right. My grandfather has a Marx 999 train set. I branded out this year. I ran it for the first time in 20 years and it ran like new. All I had to do was clean the track. The old Marx engines are solid. They're not a very realistic brand. I find their HO and O-scale engines look a little funny. But in terms of like what they were selling those for back in the day and the fact that most of them are still running 60 years later, I think is very impressive. I mean, there was actually a Marx engine in the lot I got from a family friend. Those engines hadn't started since 1969, so it had been 55 years. And the Marx engine started right up. The post-war Lionel engines fired up too, but they needed a little bit more persuading, I think just because they had slightly more complex drive systems. I have to watch it because I'm running both these off DCC right now, which means that the second I put this thing on the track, it's gonna take off on me. I would recommend going to Concord, New Hampshire train show. I go every year and there's always a lot of great layouts and dealers. Maybe you can check it out. I would be willing to. I've been through Concord quite a few times on the way down to Maine. The fake old line with a bridge is amazing. Well, if you watch some of my older videos, that actually was the main line on this layout. It's not just an art piece. This is a genuine abandoned piece of track because this layout was built on a dining table, which was shorter than the 4x8. So originally the layout ended here. Years later, I added on an extension so that I could put 22 radius curves through here, which made this bridge obsolete. And I was about to rip it out. But it stayed for a while, and then I just kind of figured, hey, like, why not kind of turn it into an abandoned scene? So I threw some matte finish brown spray paint, and I took some kind of older pieces of rolling stock and just kind of planted that all there, and I think it makes for kind of a interesting scene. Your one train is caught up to the other. Yeah, I guess the Atherns are faster than this. Your train ran into the other. I think that might have just been an optical illusion. What's the highest amount of viewers you've had on a live stream? I think during one of my repair live streams there was 450 viewers. It might have been 500, I don't know, it was quite high. The repair live streams always get more views than the running trains live streams. I mean, I find running trains is kind of fun. Not that I hate doing the repairs live, but it's interesting that they get less attention. What's your opinion on tender-driven engines? I don't hate them, but frankly, I prefer for the drive to be right in the locomotive. I find that any system where something is being pushed in terms of HO scale, you get a lot of funny stuff happening. I find it's better in most cases to have stuff being pulled. Can you run double engines simultaneously? Well, I'm running 3 right now altogether on the same line. Can you show me Pancake drive? Yeah, let me see if I can find one for you. I get asked this question a lot, so I'm going to show 2 examples. That way I can actually explain why they're called this. So this is your Pancake drive. It's a type of locomotive design, well, not a locomotive design, but a type of drive system for locomotives, which was most common kind of between the 80s into the 2000s. And the reason it's called a Pancake drive is because instead of the motor being mounted sideways, which it is right here, so you can see, you know, the motor is like lengthwise, and here the motor is pointed this way. So the reason they call it a Pancake drive is because, you know, you can see this is like a pretty thick motor because it's lengthwise. So these motors are very, very thin, so the coils and everything, it's all kind of squished down, so they call these Pancake drives because they actually fit between the width of the locomotive instead of the length. Not a very popular drive system amongst serious model railroaders. They really hate these things, but they are pretty easy to work on, and you know, they can run for a while. Especially the old Lima ones are pretty well made. I have an Athearn band drive that needs bands. Any suggestions on what to use for new bands? These don't last very long, but my younger sister was in a rainbow loom, those like things you tie all together, and so I stole some of those, and they seem to work pretty well for this, but they just don't last very long. Some hobby shops do sell genuine Athearn bands, but other than that, I don't have too much to say. Have you ever had a layout with a reversing loop? I haven't had a layout with a reversing loop, but I have a layout with a reversing section, which is actually this bridge. So if you run a train here, you can see it's not exactly a loop, but it's sort of the same idea where a train can come in here, it can go around, and then it comes back the other direction. Patrick's Tractors and Trains, thank you so much for becoming a member for 9 months. I'm getting some locomotives soon, but I don't know what shape they're in. Do you have any tips to tell if they're in bad shape? I think the first one is if you're giving them a lot of power and they're not moving very fast and the motor seems like it's not revving very high, it could be a sign that the drive is gummed up. So that's the first thing to look out for. If you've been running an engine for a short period of time and it smells like something's burning, or the motor, if you take off the shell, it seems very hot to the touch, that's also a bad sign. An older motor is less efficient. It's going to be warm. What you don't want is for the motor to be so hot that if you try to touch it, it burns you. Then you know you're overheating really bad, so that's another negative sign. Obviously, if an engine's stuttering or something, it's not great, but that usually can just be chalked down to the wheels being dirty or the track being dirty, or, you know, contact issues, things like that. Those will not destroy an engine. It's just kind of annoying. But what you want to watch out for is not to overheat your motor, because the coils can only take so much, and if you keep feeding them power when they're too stressed, they're going to overheat, and then eventually the coil's just going to burn out. You'll have a big puff of smoke, and that will be the end of the motor. So that's the only thing you really want to avoid. Also, if you put an engine on the track and you give it power and you can hear it humming or the lights come on but it's not moving, cut the power to it, because if you try to force power, it will also destroy the motor. Have you ever run the layout live with the lights dimmed or dark, just wondering how many buildings are lit? It might take a moment, but we can try to do that. I've done a couple live streams where all the buildings have been lit up. Is it normal for a 1980s engine to have hot motors for a few minutes of running? Well, again, if the motor, like if you're touching the motor directly and you give it like a quick touch, if it's like burning, like it's burning hot, that's bad. If it's just warm to the touch, it's not really a big deal. It's just if it's getting hot. You can also, usually when the coils are getting too hot, you can actually smell them burning. So if you just give it a bit of a sniff and, I don't know, it kind of smells like stuff is burning, that's also a pretty bad sign. Just unscrew this. Actually, I won't unscrew the light bulb. I'll just shut the lights off here. How often do you clean your tracks? About once a month. Just gotta figure out which wire shuts off the last couple lights, and then we'll have them all out. There we go, now it's all spooky. Yeah, you can see how many buildings we got. The house. There's supposed to be a light right here. That appears to be out. I don't know if that's burned out or if the wires have just broke on it, but there's that. It's sort of hard to see in the videos, but there actually is an interior in the store. I'll show some details actually on the layout that are not usually shown. So you got the whole band right there. And hopefully if the camera will focus, you'll actually be able to see inside the store here. I think I'm gonna have to dim the mosquitoes a little bit. Seems like a little bit too bright in my opinion right there. This was one thing I had a lot of fun doing when I lit up the old Kentucky Fried Chicken. Originally I was gonna paint the entire roof black on the inside just so that it wouldn't light through, but then I ended up leaving the sides just to kind of get that neon effect on the sides, and I thought that that was kind of cool. I also threw a light in here too, just have the locomotive shed kind of glowing. I don't know if this one's burnt out as well, but that's out. I still need to throw more paint on the inside of that one. This building right here was actually sent in from a guy named Mike from Florida, and he not only scratch built the building, but he actually made this whole interior right here, including the lighting, and you can actually see there's a lot of references to the channel. You got the Canadian and American flag in the background, just like I do. A whole bunch of trains on the wall. This really nifty little layout, and a whole bunch of different brands like Lifelike and so on and so forth. Gotta be one of the coolest, if not the coolest building on the layout. You got your Al's General Store. I had to custom wire these lights on the side. The original kit didn't have that. And your kind of Scandinavian style house there too. And the old factory and the Waffle House. Eventually the plan is to actually add some lights to the circus as well. Light up the Electric City sign. I think I need to put new batteries in it, but yeah, I'll have to get that going again. I think only one of these locomotives actually has a working headlight. That one's out. That one's out. This one has one, but it's really dim. Hey, 2020, thank you for subscribing as a member for 9 months. I appreciate it. Anyway, I think I'll try to get the lights going here again. Great video without the lights. I should film some more videos without there being any lights on. This kind of provide an interesting perspective on the layout. I think the only video I've actually done that with is the Halloween one. Did we lose power, or is that a romantic train journey tonight? I guess they call it a romantic train journey. You need another engineer view of the layout as well. How many models are still yet to be fixed or unfixable? I would say there's probably maybe 50 engines on the dock to be repaired. I don't know if any are necessarily unfixable. We'll have to open them up and see what's what. How's Chloe? Oh, she's well. Running trains in the dark is a good way to find dead bulbs. Yeah, that's a good point. As a matter of fact, I'm also noticing these two buildings are not lit right now. I definitely installed lighting in the garage possibly the train station as well, so that's not right. What's the status on the Super Duper Chief? It's still running great. You sure have work cut out for you through 2050 at least. Yeah, I would say so. Plenty of stuff to keep me busy. My grandfather was a ringmaster for Bardham and Bailey's. He would love to see it. Which building? Have you ever been rickrolled? Yes. Will you ever install lights in the Hershey factory? I don't know. There's only maybe 1 or 2 photos of it actually at night. Which is interesting because I'm pretty sure they ran the factory 24 hours a day. How old is your layout? It was built in sections, but the very first part is from 2007. So what would that be? 18 years? 17 years? What thoughts do you have, if anybody, who model 1-to-1 scale full-size models? Yes, we exist and it's awesome. What do I think? Well, first of all, I'm jealous. I mean, having your own real train, I'm sure feels pretty good. I haven't worked with many real pieces of equipment. Been a couple times toured through some shops and stuff like that, and I did drive a locomotive briefly once, but yeah, that's about all I can say. It's a lot of fun though. There's no such thing as a model that you can't fix. You just ship out a thesis until you have a new Yeah, I'm kind of the belief too. I feel like anything can be fixed. It's just how much kind of time, money, experience, and patience you're willing to put into it. It is a treat being in the cab while going through the mountains. That sounds like an amazing experience. I'm currently working on a full set of technical drawings for an engine that hasn't existed for 120 years. Lots said I'm crazy, but I have a passion about trains. Well, if you can make that happen, I mean, that's a hell of an achievement. I have a brother who used to volunteer at the Florida Railroad Museum. He went into the Air Force. If you can't fix a model conventionally, you got a MacGyver. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that like does set a lot of modelers apart, because there are some guys out there and they are 100% by the books. If you're going to fix something, you fix it to be exactly the way it came from the factory. And I mean, yeah, I can respect that, but at the same time too, there are some things that really aren't worth putting money into, and in that case it's like it kind of comes down to between, will this engine ever run again, or are you willing to kind of break a few rules here and there and get it running a bit of an unconventional way. And so, you know, if you're dealing with an old Tyco, I'm not really afraid to do some shady stuff to get it going again. A lot of the time the MacGyvers will work. You know, there have been strange repairs I've done on things, and some of them are 5 or 10 years after that repair, and they're still running without any added maintenance. So, you know, sometimes it breaks shortly thereafter, other times it holds up. Somebody else become a member? Cool Kid 11, thank you for becoming a member. Even Darth Santa Fe replaces motors sometimes. Yeah, exactly, and sometimes putting a new motor is really the best thing. Like, the truth is, like, you can try to rebuild an engine with all of its original parts, but there are little things that change. Like, I've noticed with old Tycos, like, if you just play with the gears, they have a little bit of play, and I would bet that little bit of play with just the wear and tear causes them to turn in directions they're not supposed to, and then that's where you get funny noises happening and stuff like that. So, you know, sometimes it will run, but if you're using old parts, you know, they're not going to work as well as when they were brand new. What British model trains should I get? A Flying Scotsman or a Black 5? Do you have any recommendations? I've never seen pictures of a Black 5, so I can't really say. I do really like the way the Flying Scotsman looks, though. Quite a legendary locomotive. I MacGyver trains all the time, no shame in doing it. What did you do to build your track plans? Originally, this layout, I think, was off the Atlas website or something. There was some website, it was so long ago I couldn't say what it was, but it basically had a bunch of different track plans, and me and my dad picked one out, made some small modifications to it, and built that. For the second one, I had a little bit more experience in the hobby. It was about 5 years 5 years later, so I was able to design this part myself, and I wanted a freight yard and 2 tracks. So originally, if you see older videos, it had 2 tracks right here and a freight yard, which I need to rebuild. And then for the third section, this was inspired off a layout I actually saw on Facebook Marketplace. But I heavily modified the track plan to change it from being a single track system to a double track system, and connected that on. And then the Hershey factory, I didn't need to make anything up. It was a real place, so I just had to follow that. But yeah, with most of the layouts I've built recently, I've used track planning software, and it is helpful because it helps ensure everything will line up. But a pad and paper can go an awful long way when just making like basic sketches. I recently got some Maxi 3 well cars from a friend that needed some repairs. Now I need about 80 containers if I want to run double stack. I know some guys print on paper and they build their own containers. What are your thoughts on Lifelike Proto? I think they're decent engines. They definitely have more detail than their blue box counterparts at the time. The only real problem I have with them is the gears on earlier models from the late 80s into the 90s have a tendency to split. Easily remedy problem, but that's just something to keep in mind. The new ones I think are pretty solid. Any tips on soldering? Clean the surface of whatever you're trying to solder if there's any oxidation. Put some flux on there, and yeah, just go at it. I'm really no expert on soldering, but it seems to get the job done. Flux is very important, though. I didn't know about it when I first started soldering, and the solder would just, you know, fall right off the metal. Whereas if you put some flux, it will really help it flood and It will work. Life unlike... Can you run a train on the mountain layout? If I remove the two -9s, we could probably run this train through there. I forgot that I'm still running all this stuff off the DCC controller. Just shifted from DCC to DC without even stopping the train. Is this based on any real place or just made up? So it's not, with the exception of the Hershey factory, none of these scenes are modeled identically to any particular place, but almost every scene on the layout is a reference to somewhere I've been in my life or a place I like to hang out. So every year locally, there's a fair that comes around way out in the country. So that circus area is sort of a reference to that. The farm is a reference to a place I used to work. The boat section is a reference to, you know, my passion for boating. So everything references something. I used to call Bachman Botchman. I've heard that one before. Do you still use your train simulator? I haven't for quite a long time. Any advice for a brand new model train channel? I would say if you're just starting out with a channel about model railroading and there's something that you feel like you can bring to the table, like there's something that nobody else is doing that you know something about, maybe it's a certain type of track work or a certain type of detailing or something like that, make your videos about that, and I think people will appreciate it. Because I think, you know, I'm not trying to badmouth any channels that like do reviews of like, you know, modern locomotives, but I would say that that part of the model railroad community on YouTube is pretty saturated. Like there's a lot of people doing product reviews, but I feel like there are other parts of the hobby. Like, you know, earlier somebody was talking about working on live steam model trains. I don't see very many people making videos about those. I would bet if somebody tried to make a channel about that, it might be successful just on the back of it being kind of a niche of a niche. So that's probably what I would do. I will say that the model railroading space on YouTube has changed a lot, though. Like when I started this channel in 2016, things were way different. I recently drove a former Santa Fe B37-2 for a quarter mile and hooked up 2 cars. It was the best experience of my life. It sounds like a lot of fun. Hey SMT, I just bought a Santa Fe locomotive off eBay. It's an Athearn. It has DCC added. It acts like it's not receiving power at all. When I put power to the track, the wheels are very clean. I would check the contacts if it has them. Check the wires running to the motor, see if that does anything. Because if no lights are coming on and you're not hearing any humming from the motor, it's got to be some kind of an electrical issue. That or it's shorted really badly, but one way you can find that out is put an engine that you know works on your layout, and then put the bad engine beside it, and then see if, when you power it up, if the good engine moves, because if there's a really bad short circuit, it will prevent the other one from running as well. Is there a way to use knuckle couplers and horn hooks together? Well, if you bend the knuckle coupler at a bit of a weird angle and get the kind of pin on the end of the horn hook in there, you can hook them up, but it's not great for your knuckle couplers because they're spring loaded, and sometimes doing that can knock the spring out. The best thing that I found is to take one car, and on one side use a horn hook coupler, on the other side use a knuckle coupler, and then that car will be a transition car between the older horn hook cars and the newer knuckle cars. When's the move to the garage going to happen? I really can't tell you. I'm not making any promises of a timeline on that anymore. Just today, this morning, we received a ton of rain, and there was literally a stream of water jetting out of the wall. It was that bad. So I don't want to move the layout in there because we've had continuous mold issues, and I'm worried if you have a layout which is made out of paper and wood and all these other materials which are susceptible to mold, and track which is susceptible to moisture, and engines which are susceptible to moisture, I don't want to bring all this stuff in that environment and ruin my entire collection. So either that problem gets fixed, or and I move, or it remains and the layout stays in here for now. That, or I end up finding a house. If that happens before then, the garage thing might just get skipped and I'll just go straight to, you know, having my own space, which would be great, but we'll see. Colorado District Rail Fan. I have an N-scale Bachmann GP40 and the light comes on, but it doesn't run. Any idea why? Could be that the motor's jammed. It could also be that the motor is not getting power. The light's going on, you know, the contacts and the wheels and everything are working right, but you could have a problem with the wire that goes directly to the motor from there, or you could also have an issue with the brushes in the motor where one of the brushes is stuck or one of the springs is squished, and if that's the case, the engine also will not run. IHC made some Magic Mate couplers compatible with both horn hook and knuckle couplers. You can still find them sometimes. I use them for converter cars. Huh, I'll have to have a look for those. I think the McHenry couplers might also be compatible with both, but I haven't tested that for myself. I can't get my Tyco RF16 Sharknose to run. It crawls around the layout at a very low speed. I've cleaned it, I've given it new traction tires, but no matter what I do, it won't run. Well, I would try throwing some good oil in there, see if that gets going, but truth be told, sometimes you just have a tired power plant, and it's just, the coils don't have the same life they once did, and they're just not running, the motor's overheating. But the good news with the old Tycos is that, like, power torques are a dime a dozen. They were so common, and since Tyco was trying to keep them cheap, they used generic parts. So you can take parts off of one Tyco diesel, it doesn't really matter what, so long as it's another power torque, and swap them. So if it's an important engine to you, you could just do that. That should get it going again. What's your opinion on the Eve model knuckle couplers? I haven't worked with them before. Well, actually, that's not true, because the Eve model steam engine had a coupler. It kind of just looked like an Easy Mate knockoff. If it is, probably not very good. Do you have a Flying Scotsman? I have one, but it's not currently in working order. Et vous, Quebec? Yeah, I do live in Quebec. I don't speak French so well, though. You should get all of your Canadian railroad coaches and 2 locos to run a big passenger train, or at least all your DCC engines. Maybe. What's the most recent locomotive added? Good question. I think the most recent engine I added was that lot, which included, I don't know, like 8 of them. Actually, that's not true, because it's the PetSmart engine. That's the latest one. See if I can find the PetSmart engine. Metal or plastic wheels? Metal wheels all day. I really like metal wheels. They roll better. They don't mess up your track with grease, and they also don't warp as easily unless they have a plastic axle. The shiny PetSmart Santa Fe, yeah. The PetSmart engine is my favorite. It's a good one. Trying to see if I can find it. I can't remember if I put it on this shelf or the other one. We'll have a look. The problem is that it looks so similar to a Santa Fe engine. I feel like it's probably right in front of me and I just don't see it. The Super Chief is goated. Yeah, it's become quite a staple. I don't know. The wiring looks fine on the Santa Fe locomotives when I put it next to a different locomotive that ran. Sorry, I'm gonna have to reread this. The wiring looks fine. The Santa Fe locomotive went when I put it next to a different locomotive while the Santa Fe didn't run. So I think what you're saying is the other engine that you put beside it on the track still ran. So that's a good sign. It means it's not shorted. But if the wires going to the motor are connected fine, and give them a pull, because sometimes a piece of solder can break, but it will still look like it's intact. So just give them like a very gentle tug. If that doesn't reveal anything, I would say you've probably got a problem with your springs or your brushes. They're not making good contact. Could also be the motor is just burned out. Could be a bad armature, but I don't find that's super common. When will you review the cheap hand fly set that you ordered? I don't know. It is in my possession now. But I think that they sent... Well, this is my fault. They didn't just send me the wrong thing. I ordered a demo engine, which I thought was just going to be like a sample of the regular one. But it looks like the box doesn't match the other one. So I think that they sent me a store version, which I think might be different. So I don't know. Is the Hershey factory a kit or printed? It was all handcrafted. Some of the materials for it you could actually buy. So like there's HO scale corrugated metal, HO scale brick, HO scale stucco. So all those materials I was able to buy as a supply. I had to paint them all myself though to make it match. But there were other areas where I had to improvise. This is old cardstock out of an old Tyco engine right here. The roof is actually made out of sandpaper. This is just made out of like bits of plastic and styrofoam I had. All the structure is made out of styrofoam. The piping on the roof is actually bendy straws, which I spray painted silver. So there were some genuine supplies, and then there was also just a lot of improvising. Is your grandmother's trains still... Yeah, all of her, well, with the exception of the 2 engines I haven't fixed, all 3 of them are running now. Does the crossing work? It lights up, but it doesn't flash. Could you run the hand fly engine for... Yeah, sure. I don't know how far south you'd like to travel, but over in Allentown, Pennsylvania, there's an East Penn traction meet every 2 years. A lot of veterans of the hobby who are a treat to talk to. I don't know. I've been in Pennsylvania before. I'm definitely not done with long road trips for good, but I've had quite a few of them recently, and I'm not sure how keen I am for at least a while. You know, the car was doing some pretty gnarly stuff on the last road trip. I thought I broke it for good. I don't quite understand why this thing was running fine for the first 2 loops and now it derails every time on that corner. Hey SMT, I love watching your videos, but I never make your live streams. This is my first live stream with you. Also, what engines are you running? We've currently got Canadian National number 6060. Got miscellaneous New Haven F7, I think it is. I was running this, but it just derailed, so throw something else on here. But if anybody has requests, I'm always hoping to trying to run them. And you put a trolley in the town. Sure. What year is your Oldsmobile? It's a 1979 model year, which means it was actually a 78 technically, but does anybody really measure by manufacturer year? Could you run the P42? Sure. Could the decoder cause the locomotive not to run? Absolutely. Decoders have their own variety of issues. First of all, if you're trying to run a DCC engine on DC, sometimes they're not compatible or the decoder hasn't been programmed to take DC power. If you are running it on DCC with a DCC controller, got to make sure you've obviously got the right address. That's number one. But occasionally, especially if a DCC engine's been sitting for a long time, I don't know if the electronics inside lose their memory or something, but they just will not start. So for that, sometimes just doing a factory reset will get the decoder to boot back up. Other times, putting a DCC engine on DC power can actually get it to go and start up again. I've seen that happen a couple times. But yeah, I've tried to do a factory reset, see if it responds to that, but if not, just replace the decoder. Just looking for my Amtrak P42. I can't seem to find it, so I guess I'll throw my Athearn one on. DC all the way. Hey SMT, funny story. I'm having an ant problem in my kitchen, and to prevent my dog from eating the trap, I put a 40-foot boxcar shell over it. Well, if it works, it works. Are MRC controllers reliable? I find their larger ones are, like the Tech 2 and the 9500 series. As for the 1300s, I have one which basically, well, it's not up here anymore. I have one which has the pilot light. That thing has been solid. I've definitely put that through its paces. I had a couple of other, maybe 2012 50s, and those burnt out. I don't entirely understand why this thing is not starting. That's weird. Okay, that's fine, I guess. Doesn't want to go enough forwards. That's really weird. This thing was running just fine last time. Or maybe I just need to shut the controller off quickly. See if that gets it going again. So I'm going to plug in the other one here. There we go. Try an NCE power cab. It should work. shut that off so it's a little bit easier to speak. Yeah, I don't have anything against NCE products. I do think that they make a pretty good controller, because there's a lot of people I know who have been in the hobby for a long time and they seem to really love their products. But what I will say is I did do a poll on what the best DCC controller is, and Digitrax blew NCE out of the water. So I know the NCE guys are going to come out here and be like, God, that's nonsense. NCE is better, but poll numbers speak for themselves, so take from that what you will. Could just be Digitrax are more common, I don't know. Question, do you have the Hornby LBC or SC E2? If so, can you show on the channel? I've been watching for 2 years. It would be a dream to see a Hornby E2. I don't think I do have one. Are you a fan of the old action accessories like Tyco or Bachmann had? They're a cool concept. I haven't seen too many working ones, but it's a cool idea. I do have one of the Tyco crossings on the layout. I have a Digitrax Zephyr and it works flawlessly all day. Well, this Digitrax, the DCS51 has been a decent controller, but it's also, I think, from like the mid-2000s or something, so it's kind of dated. Or I have the 51. The 52, a buddy of mine had one of those. It was a better controller in my opinion, but I just don't see the reason in upgrading mine when this one is still, you know, dishing it out. Can we get some close-up shots of the mountain layout? Yeah, sure. Digitrax and NCE each have their quirks. I kind of like the NCE handheld better. It seems to be the most common thing. Like, I find most people who use NCE have the handheld. The VIA engine is acting a little bit pompous wampus. What is going on there? Oh well, let that sort itself out. In the meantime, here's stuff happening on the mountain layout. The Mondeco Model Railroad Club are Cheech and Chong members. Are they? What engine do you worry most about catching fire? Probably that new Marx 040. That thing has big problems. Have any of your engines ever caught fire? Not really. I mean, I've had a lot of motors burn up and like smoke comes pouring out of them, but never... I don't think any have ever ignited. I did have a motor ignite in my hand when I was younger, because I was putting alcohol on the commutator to try to clean it up. And I was being stupid, just being a kid. And I gave it power, forgetting, you know, I've got a hand and motor which is soaked in rubbing alcohol. And so when I gave it power... Well, I think the rest speaks for itself. Do you have to ignite heat shrink one time? Yeah, heat shrink's a one-use thing. You put it on the wire and then that's it. Once you apply heat. I had a Powerline low-nose T-Class burn once. The first release had a decoder issue. When you run it on DCC, it blew the top off, and I'm pretty sure I had the shell off it somewhere it burnt. I have seen pictures where decoders have gotten so hot they've burned right through the shells of locomotives. I believe he said you ignited heat shrink once. I don't remember that. I probably did. Do you have the locomotive from the movie Silver Streak? I've got some very similar Canadian Pacific ones, but no Amro diesels. Rubbing alcohol on a motor seems like something my mom would suggest for me to do when servicing my models. Well, the thing is, I had done that before, and it worked very well, because, you know, it will chew through the carbon and everything else, so, I mean, it polished them up, but unfortunately, you know, it's also flammable, so lessons learned. Sparky, welcome. I thought igniting it, how you're supposed to do it. Do you have residue with alcohol? No, the alcohol evaporates. That's not a problem. It's just that, you know, it also removes stuff which helps prevent oxidization. And rubbing alcohol also contains water, so it's not great. Can you run the QJ? Yeah, sure. Harrison, answer your text so I can see them. Yeah, I'll have a look. I first used heat shrink tubing in the USAF fixing snow removal equipment in Alaska. Wow. I hope you'll do a repair video on the PCC streetcar someday. I'm sure I will. The other one I think I'm going to have to order parts for, but I also have another metal one which probably will live again. With the old blue boxes, instead of having that positive metal bar going across, I use wire. I solder it on. I find that works pretty well. You just need to make sure you're using a flexible enough wire, because before I knew that, I was using a wire which was a little bit too thick, and it was actually causing the engine to derail because the trucks couldn't swivel as much. Is a 4x8 table good for an HO scale set? I would say so. It's a very, very common size. I think it's because it allows you to have 22 radius curves on the outer loop. And you can build a pretty decent layout with a 4x8. Like, I feel like it's just big enough to get some stuff done. Sorry to bother you, but is there a certain time you do these live streams? This is my first one. Usually I do them on weekdays after 7, but there's no specific time. What 2 engines of your grandmother's that still need to be fixed? One is a Scotsman and the other is a 242 steam engine. Let me see if I can show you. So here's the Scotsman. These are actually really rare. So that would be a nice one to get going. And then the other one was at one point a 242. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that one back together because there's just so much missing. It's going to be tricky. Did you work on Nathan Delay's locomotive? So, but basically what happened with Nathan's locomotive is that I threw it on the track with a hardwired system directly to the track from the motor, and the current draw was super high. So the reason that decoder failed is because the motor was having issues. So anyway, I contacted Nathan and I asked him if he wanted me to keep it as a DCC locomotive or replace the motor, and he said that he wanted it to be a DCC engine. So I contacted Rapido and they got back to me yesterday, and apparently they're going to ship me out a motor, so I should be able to get that going pretty soon. Yeah, it was funny because I emailed Rapido the first time through an email address from somebody. Like 5 years ago, I emailed Rapido basically because I was missing a mirror on one of my engines, and so the store ended up contacting one of their contacts at Rapido, and then they got back to me. So I tried contacting that address. I didn't hear anything back, so I just went through their customer service desk. And so I send them an email, and I just say, hey, I got this locomotive that I'm working on for a buddy of mine. Needs a new motor. I couldn't find one in the parts department. Is there a way I could purchase one? And I get the regular response saying like, oh yeah, we'll connect you through to the parts department. We'll see if you can get you a motor. About 10 minutes after I get that email, I have one of the higher ups at Rapido send me an email back, and they said like, Harrison runs a channel based out of Eastern Ontario. Please send him a motor. So that was cool. Good work, Rapido. It wasn't Jason. I don't want to name names. I'm not trying to... I mean, it wouldn't be exposing because it's not bad publicity, but yeah, I thought that was pretty funny. Do you still have that powered dumb Union Pacific train? Powered dumb? You mean the geometry car? Very sporting of them. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, if you're talking about this thing, I have it. I haven't run this in a long time. I don't know if it will work. A bunch of squeaking. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's either the Rivarossi cars or the Rapido ones. Let's see. I'll stop the Via train. We'll see if the squeaking continues. Yeah, I think it's one of these passenger cars. When are you going to move the layout to the shed? I was talking about that earlier. Unfortunately, this morning we got some heavy rain, and it was literally spraying out of the wall at like 45 degrees. So, I don't know. So, not so great with the whole mold issue. Oh, yep. The coder's not liking the new engine there. Let's see if I can get this going. Okay. Let's see if this will start. I love the mystery of the tilted cars. I used to get those. Are these doing that? Shorted, yeah. If only Harrison had a shed like yours, Sparky. I mean, that's the goal. That's what happens when you come in late. You miss all the news, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that's still going on, but earlier it was pretty bad. Is that a track cleaning diesel? I think when this left the factory, it would have been a track cleaning diesel. Unfortunately, that's all been removed and now something to short it out. $10 says it's that. Yeah, I think it got a little bit caught up on a switch. It's cool that it's still running though. Are you familiar with the MRC Tech 6 controller? I believe the Tech 6 is the one that's a DC-DCC controller. I've seen some reviews of those. It looks like a decent unit, but I've never actually worked with one myself, so I can't speak personally from experience about it. Time to get some memes from mini prints so you can have the tubers on your layout. Well, plastic wheels make the track a little bit... Yeah, the plastic wheels do make the track dirtier quicker just because, just like a real train wheel, there is a little bit of friction between the rail and the wheel. And with metal wheels, there's not very much wear, but with the plastic ones, since the plastic is softer than the rail, a very, very small amount of material will come off each wheel as it's rolling around. It's so small, it's not really even measurable, but it will start to show up on your track, especially if you have a lot of plastic wheels. You'll kind of see it coat your track. It's not the end of the world, but you're just gonna have to clean your track a little bit more often if you run equipment with plastic wheels. Where do you get your metal wheels and couplers from? I usually order them from Loco Works on eBay. That or I just get them at the local hobby shop. Love the videos, thank you. You should do the equivalent of supercharging a car motor on an HO scale locomotive. I think the only way you could do something like that would be just to put a low voltage motor in a locomotive, but honestly, like if you want an overclock in a locomotive, you just need to just keep dumping volts in it. Like the old Atherns, you can over rev them like crazy and they'll take it. What are your thoughts on Eve Model's metal wheels? They seem all right. I was having some problems with some of the cars not being able to handle the curves on this layout though, and I think that that's mostly due to the coupler design, so I'm gonna have to do some more research with that, but Yeah, I'm impressed for a starter set it even has metal wheels. That's not very common. I like the DD40 you have with the wood center. Maybe that was the one where I put that, I think I did put a skewer or something to make a drive shaft. Can you run your Walther's GP15-1? Yeah, sure. Where did you get the Athearn truck covers? Usually I just part them out off of junked engines, or I 3D print them. Just looking for the GP15 here. There we go. I think the layout's shorted out. Perfect. Did you make your QJ into the RJ Corman or the Iowa Interstate? RJ Corman. I think Iowa Interstate left the fenders on their locomotive, or the smoke deflectors, I should say. And I pulled them off this model. Let's go set that up over here. Renfrew guy, hi Harris, FYI there's a shop in Smith Falls offering new old stuff. Yeah, I saw your comment about that earlier. It's funny you say there was another person, I think they were called Black Hawk Productions or something. I guess they're also from the Smith Falls area, and they were talking about that as well. So yeah, 3 different comments at that place. I'll have to go check it out. $10:40 Harrison time. Yeah, I'm off to bed. Bon nuit, SMT. Yeah, bon nuit. Can you run the RJ Corman? Yep. Can you give out a shout out to my son Luke? Hi, Luke. Running F7. We just ran one. I'm gonna try to get the RJ Corman unit going here. Where do you find New Haven stuff? I'm from Connecticut and I've been trying to build up my New Haven collection. I don't own a crazy amount of New Haven stuff, but I think the most obvious answer is eBay. Once in a while, I guess you'll see some New Haven stuff at a train show, but I don't find it's the most common railroad out there. There would probably be some stores in New York which would have New Haven equipment, I think, since they were operating there at one point. Can a DCC engine run on DC track? Usually with a modern engine it will, yeah. What's your favorite railroad in the USA? I would say BNSF. Any thoughts on expanding the railroad? Probably if I find a place to run the channel out of and I have extra space, I would use that to build some more scenes on the layout, but for the time being, I think I'm just going to operate it as is. Ever been on the Conway Scenic Railroad? I've driven by it before on my way down to Maine, but I've never been on it before. But I've seen some of Conway Scenic's equipment in Lincoln. BNSF, the pumpkins of the rail. Yeah, exactly. Try eBay or Rapido for New Haven. That's true. Rapido does have some New Haven products. I'm pretty psyched about them releasing the P32s, the wraps that the New York Railroad has. How did you go about achieving the canyon on your layout? I built that with my uncles. We took a whole bunch of mesh and we stapled that to both the tables, and then we put drywall plaster over it and painted it. Your trains run so well, you have time to come work on my track? No, I don't know. I was just saying at the beginning of the live stream, I had to replace all 4 of these switches. They all went bad around the same time. Very strange. I need mine working by August. Thank you for answering my questions. This is my first live view also. What do you think of Genesis? I had a 3985 Challenger. I haven't worked with a crazy amount of Genesis stuff. I have a Genesis Mikado. 2 of them now, actually, because somebody sent me one. That engine ended up having bad gears. I got it working again, but a bit of a weird problem. The other one hasn't, so I can't really speak for it because I haven't worked with a crazy amount of other stuff, but I have to say for the Athearn steam engines I have worked with, they haven't been the greatest. Maybe their new stuff's better. I find Athearn has really always been more of a diesel manufacturer, though. Like, they have an amazing lineup of different diesels, especially their blue box ones, and their modern diesels are great. I find all of their steam engines have always been a little bit strange. Especially their old Athearn, the old Athearn steam engines. Those are very odd. SMT, your videos helped me fix my 484. I'm glad to hear that. Do you still have your tea kettle? Yeah, let me see if I can run that. It's already popping wheelies. Let's see if we can do a wheelie right through the downtown. The local biker gangs will be very proud. I'm gonna set up the camera here. I bet it's gonna go do a wheelie right through the downtown core. This is gonna be nice. In Canada, we need a wheelie bar. I think the tea kettle needs more voltage for this to work. I think that's the problem. I'm new to the hobby. Everybody can tell what kind of locomotive to buy just by looking at it. How do you know what it is? Is there a cheap sheet available, or is it just experience? I think for a lot of people it's just experience, but there are kind of signs as to what belongs to what. I should make a video on it, because to go through every brand, it would, probably take an hour, but, I'll show you some examples. Pick some random engines off the shelf here. And, well, an old Lifelike usually has plastic wheels on the front, and then these kind of copper ones on the back. A Blue Box has these white motor mounts. There's 4 of them on the bottom. Or a Proto, which is basically a rip-off Athearn, has the same motor mounts, but they're black. And if we pick, I don't know, I'm trying to see if I can grab another brand here. That's another Proto, so that's not going to be a good example. But there are just little subtle differences like that, and you start to be able to spot them. I put all metal wheels and Katie's on my Tyco cars. Those horn hook couplers were terrible. Yeah, I mean, horn hooks are good, I think, for beginners, because you can, like, bump them and stuff, and they don't break very easily. But in terms of performance, knuckles are definitely a little bit better, especially the metal knuckle couplers. There's a book that came out explaining all the different loco differences. Huh. Can you run your Hershey? Can you run a switcher to the Hershey factory and pick up a car or two? The Hershey factory is no longer connected. I disconnected it like a month or so ago in preparation for the layout move. But as I was talking about earlier, unfortunately, the garage is not doing so great. I love the grandmother train restoration. Thank you. That was a tricky one, but it was worth it. What's going on with the real Hershey factory? I don't really know. I haven't heard anything about it. CBC News did a piece where they interviewed a whole bunch of different people about it, and Hershey never gave a straight answer, but they donated $50,000 to a local charity in Smith Falls, which would indicate that they have interest in the town. That's the first time since 2008 they've done anything in the town as like a corporate citizen. But that's about it. They've been very, very vague about what they want to do with that building. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I have a couple theories. The first one is that, you know, I think they just bought the building because it was a really good deal. So I think they kind of bought it without having a plan. So, I mean, it could be possible that the people at the company don't even know what they want to do with the building and they're just holding on to it. The other theory I have is that the original workers from the factory were unionized, and I'm quite confident Hershey probably wants to try to set up shop without a union. So they might just be waiting so that the original workers who would have retired when this closed get older and not take back any of those people that might want to form a union. That's just a theory on my part, but I do find it funny that they've owned that building for nearly 2 years now and we haven't heard anything about it. It's just kind of weird. River Rossi Challenger repairs. One set of drivers work, the other set do not move. I would check to make sure it hasn't dropped a bolt or that things haven't got all bound up, because here, let me show you. Occasionally what will happen with these River Rossi engines is the bolt backs out and it actually gets caught up with the whole valve gear, or it gets caught up, you know, with this part of the valve gear, and that can cause things to jam up. So I would just check and make sure everything is moving. Like you see here, I can wiggle all this. That's a good sign. Because, yeah, the River Rossis, they're very notorious for these bolts just backing out and then they fall out. Or if they're in this area, sometimes they get stuck. Can you run the ABA welded together? Sure. You have a Flying Scotsman. I have a Flying Scotsman. It's not in working order at the moment. Are you going to do a new layout series? I think the next layout series is probably going to be the budget layout series, where I build a layout essentially out of junk I found and stuff from the dollar store, train shows and things like that. And then after that, it's going to be the beginner layout series, which is basically just going to be how to build a very basic layout using roadbed track and things like that. Do you have any Marklin stuff? I've got a couple Marklin engines. Does your dad's consolidation still work? It doesn't run great, but yeah, it still runs. I think what I'm going to try to do here is I'll run this freight train off the main line, and then we'll maybe try to run the Super Chief that way. No idea if the QJ is going to handle that first curve. That went a lot better than I was expecting. I was sure that was going to derail on that first curve. Fantastic. Oh, got a super chat. Come to the meet and greet, please. Here's your gas money. Thank you, Sparky. QJ stopped at the perfect point. I'm working on an HO scale layout. I want to get into some O scale. What would you recommend getting into for starting O scale? Yeah, so I haven't worked with a whole lot of modern O scale stuff. So in terms of buying a brand new train set, I can't really say. In terms of older stuff, post-war Lionel, like that, you know, late 1940s to 1969 era. It's very solid stuff. You can find it cheap at antique stores and things like that. So I'm a huge fan of the post-war Lionel. But yeah, as for modern stuff, I don't really know. There's probably some O-scale guys in the chat right now who could answer that question a lot better than I could, because I do know Lionel has some starter sets, but I don't know if there's any that are better than others. So if any of you O-scalers are out there, please feel free to share your thoughts on that. Sparky just posted a link to his video too if everybody wants to go check that out. How many Australian trains do you have? I think about maybe somewhere between 5 and 10. I would get no and 30 for your first O scale. How's your N scale layout coming along? I haven't made any changes to it ever since I added on the new track work. The new track is working really well, though. I've got to say I'm quite impressed. There's the one I like. Yeah, I better stop it before I cut off this guy. See if I can make it back around before the other train gets there. Oh, this is going to be a photo finish. Yep. So there's a good example of what not to do. Anyway, it's 11 o'clock, so I'm going to have to finish off the live stream as to not keep everybody living upstairs awake. But thank you all so much for joining in this evening. As usual, I had a lot of fun running a bunch of different locomotives that were requested and chatting with all of you out there, and I hope you enjoyed as well. And I think I'll finish it off there. I'll read a couple last comments here, and then I'll log off for the night. Let me just get this thing up here. Can you make an unboxing video of the Broadway Limited Union Pacific? Probably not. I'm pretty happy with my River Rossi ones, even though they keep breaking. They're cheaper to buy, so I kind of like that. So long as roadbed for the other curves. What? I love your videos. You're one of the reasons I like model trains. Also, we need a funny moments video. There could definitely be probably a half-hour-long fail compilation of me derailing trains and stuff on the layout. So yeah, maybe at some point I'll put everything together. Do you have an Athearn high F drive loco, the one with the bands? I have one of the bands in for the hair and they work. Flies like a jet. I do have one of those. I was actually just showing somebody in the live stream earlier one. This one's broken at the moment, but yeah. And I think the rest of the comments, with the exception of a link to Sparky's meet and greet, are just people signing out. So thanks for stopping by, everyone. Have a great night.